Millionaire invited her to his party, but when she arrived in that dress, the millionaire couldn't control his feelings. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. It was Sunday afternoon when everything started to change. Sloane Ellington didn't know that walking into that tall, shiny building would change her life forever. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and she stepped out onto the 32nd floor of Thorne and Associates, a very big event planning company. The floor was so clean it looked like glass, and the sunlight from the large windows made everything sparkle. Sloane was 29 years old, and she walked with confidence. Her brown skin glowed under the light, and her curly hair was tied neatly in a low bun. She wore a navy blue blazer, a white shirt, and black pants that looked smart and professional. She looked around carefully, noticing every little thing: the big paintings, the quiet workers, and the smell of new furniture. A blonde lady sitting at the front desk smiled politely and said, "Good morning, Miss Ellington. Mr. Thorne is waiting for you in his corner office on the top floor." "Thank you," Sloane said, holding her leather folder tightly. That morning, she had drunk her favorite coffee in her small Brooklyn apartment. She had listened to Alicia Keys' songs on her subway ride, watching the city wake up through the window. When she reached the top floor, it felt different. Everything looked rich and powerful. From one of the offices, she heard a man's deep voice say, "I don't care what the client wants, Silas. If they can't appreciate quality, they can go somewhere else." Sloane knocked gently on the open door. The man stopped talking and turned around. He was tall, very tall, maybe 6'2", and looked like he was in control of everything. His hair was dark and neat, and his gray eyes looked sharp, like he could see everything. He wore a perfectly fitted charcoal suit and a serious expression. For a moment, Sloane forgot the speech she had practiced. He looked at her, not like most people did, but like he really saw her. "Mr. Thorne," she said, standing straight. "I'm Sloane Ellington. I'm here for the event coordinator position." Griffin Thorne's eyes softened slightly. "Of course," he said smoothly. "Silas, we'll finish this later." The shorter man left quickly, giving Sloane a curious look. "Please sit," Griffin said, motioning to the chair in front of his big desk. As Sloane sat down, she noticed how calm and steady he was. Every movement seemed planned. "I've looked at your work," Griffin said. "Your event for the Patterson Foundation last year was very good." "Thank you," Sloane said. "That event almost didn't happen because a machine broke 3 hours before the guests came. I had to convince the workers to stay late and fix everything. Sometimes you have to be creative when things go wrong." Griffin looked surprised. "Most people bragged about their successes, not their problems. And you think that will help you here?" he asked. "This is not charity work. Our clients want perfection." Sloane sat up taller. "Perfection without flexibility is useless, Mr. Thorne. Your clients pay for results, not just for rules. If you want someone who gets scared when things go wrong, that's not me." Griffin leaned back, smiling for the first time. His face looked kinder when he smiled. "Tell me about the hardest event you ever managed." For 20 minutes, Sloane told him about a wedding that almost got ruined by a thunderstorm. She explained how she quickly found a new place, moved 200 guests, and even drove flowers in her own car. Griffin listened carefully, asking smart questions. "Why events?" he finally asked. "You could do anything with your skills." Sloane thought of her grandmother's small house in North Carolina, where parties were full of love, not money. She thought of her mom, who was a nurse but still made every birthday special. "Because the right event makes people happy," Sloane said softly. "It gives them hope. It reminds them that they deserve joy." Griffin was silent for a long time. Then he said, "When can you start?" Sloane smiled brightly. "Monday at 8? 7:30, he said with a teasing smirk. 7:30 it is. When she shook his hand, it felt warm and strong. It lasted a moment longer than usual. Welcome to Thorne and Associates, Miss Ellington, Griffin said. I have a feeling things are about to get interesting. As she rode the elevator down, Sloane couldn't stop smiling, but she also couldn't stop thinking about his gray eyes. And high above, Griffin stood by the window, watching her leave, wondering what had just happened to his quiet, controlled life. The next morning was cool and bright. Sloane stood in front of her mirror at 6:15 a.m., putting on light lipstick. She wore a burgundy wrap dress that looked beautiful but professional. Her hair was soft and curly, and her gold earrings sparkled. She rode the subway, reviewing notes about the company's events, a tech launch, a charity auction, and the company's big yearly party, which she had heard was Griffin's favorite. At exactly 7:25, she entered the building. "Sloane," a friendly voice called. A woman with shoulder-length brown hair and kind blue eyes walked up to her. "I'm Juno Hartwell, Communications Director. Griffin asked me to show you around." "Nice to meet you," Sloane said, smiling. "Coffee first, or the grand tour?" Juno asked. "Coffee, please. I can't function without it." Juno laughed. "Same here. The coffee machine here is fancy. It scares the new people. I'll show you how it works." As Juno showed her the machine, she chatted happily. "You're replacing Corbin Vance. Nice guy, but very messy. He even booked the wrong wedding venue once." Sloane's eyes widened. "Really?" "Yup, 2 places with the same name, 40 miles apart," Juno said, giggling. "But don't worry, Griffin doesn't expect miracles on your first day, maybe on your second." They both laughed as Sloane took her cappuccino. For the next hour, Juno showed her the office. Sloane learned that Thorne and Associates wasn't just a company, it was Griffin's pride and dream. He wanted everything perfect. "That's your office," Juno said, showing her a large room with a big window. Griffin redesigned it last week. Sloane looked around. The room was lovely and neat, with good lighting and comfy chairs. "He designed this?" she asked. "Yep," Juno said. "He's very particular, but fair. He really cares about his work." Just then, someone knocked. Griffin stood at the door wearing a navy suit. His gray eyes looked almost silver in the morning light. His hair was a little messy, and somehow that made him look even better. "Miss Ellington, settling in?" he asked. "Yes, thank you. The office is beautiful." "Good. Conference room in 10 minutes, he said. "We need to fix the Martinez wedding problem." When he left, Juno raised her eyebrows. "Interesting. What is?" Sloane asked. "He never includes me in vendor meetings," Juno said with a grin. "And he never redesigns offices for new employees. That room hadn't changed in 3 years." Sloane felt her heart flutter. Maybe he just wants me to do well. "Maybe," Juno said with a smile that said she wasn't sure. In the conference room, Griffin showed just how smart and detail-oriented he was. He knew every client's likes and dislikes, every vendor's strengths, and every possible problem. Sloane suggested changing the Martinez wedding venue to Riverside Gardens, which she had quickly researched earlier. Griffin listened carefully. Then he called someone on the phone. "Caspian, it's Griffin Thorne. I need a favor for Saturday the 23rd. Same price, same time." "Great, thank you." He hung up. "Done. Riverside Gardens is booked." Sloane blinked in surprise. "Just like that?" "Reputation matters," Griffin said. "Take care of people and they'll take care of you." He looked at her, and his eyes softened again. "I'm impressed you thought of Riverside. Most people wouldn't have." "Sometimes the best ideas aren't the obvious ones," Sloane said. Griffin smiled faintly, remembering her words from before. "Juno, can you handle the press updates? I'll go over Miss Ellington's other projects with her." After Juno left the meeting room, it felt smaller and very quiet. Griffin walked to the whiteboard and started drawing lines and writing notes. He explained the plans for the next big events with great care. "The tech company launch is easy," he said while writing. "It's a new company with big dreams, but a small budget. They want to look big, but not too showy." Sloane watched how he moved. He looked calm, smart, and confident. The way he stood and wrote on the board showed that he had done this many times before. When he turned back, Sloane quickly looked down at her notes so he wouldn't notice her staring. The Children's Hospital auction, Griffin continued, is more complicated. The people coming are very important. Dr. Alara is very picky about the details. What kind of picky? Sloane asked, curious. Griffin smiled a little. Once she made the caterer redo the whole menu because the appetizer plates were round instead of square. She said circles were too casual. Sloane laughed. So we have to make sure everything is perfect. Exactly, Griffin said. Every little thing matters. The font on the invitations, the height of the flowers, even the temperature of the room. Our job is to care about things people don't even realize matter. He paused. And then there's our company's yearly party, he added more seriously. That one's very special to me. It needs to show who we really are. Sloane felt there was something deeper behind his words, but she didn't ask. Instead, she said, "What's the plan for this year?" Corbin had a boring one, Griffin said with a frown. When is it again? 4 weeks from Friday, Sloane answered, surprised. He looked at her. Is that a problem? His voice sounded calm, but Sloane could feel he was testing her. It's a short time, she said, but not impossible. What's the budget? Whatever it takes to make it unforgettable, Griffin said. Sloane grinned. Dangerous words, Mr. Thorne. I might take you seriously. Griffin laughed, really laughed for the first time. His laugh was warm and deep, and it made Sloane's heart jump a little. I'm counting on it, Miss Kane, he said. When the meeting ended, Sloane felt something had changed between them. They weren't just boss and employee anymore. There was a little trust and maybe a tiny spark of something else. 2 weeks later, Sloane had fallen into a nice routine. Every morning she arrived at 7:25, chatted with Juno in the break room, and then worked hard all day. On Wednesday, she had a meeting in the small cafe downstairs. The cafe made the best croissants in the area. It was her favorite place to meet vendors because it felt relaxed. Sloane Kane, a woman's voice called. Sloane looked up and saw a fancy-looking woman in her 40s with shiny silver black hair and a bun. I'm Seraphina Bloom from Petal and Thorn, she said warmly. Nice to meet you, Miss Bloom, Sloane said, shaking her hand. Seraphina's handshake was strong and her eyes were kind but sharp. They sat down with coffee. Sloane opened her tablet. I like your idea of white orchids with gold, she said, but maybe we can add some texture. You're thinking about how sound moves in the room, Seraphina said. That's smart. Most planners only care about how things look. Exactly, Sloane said. There'll be a live auction, so the flowers should make the energy feel bright, not dull. They talked for half an hour about flower height, colors, and table designs. Seraphina clearly loved her work. Sloane liked how she saw flowers as part of the feeling of an event, not just decoration. I think we have a plan, Sloane said, saving her notes. Seraphina smiled. Wonderful. Oh, and Sloane, she said playfully, I've done flowers for Mr. Thorne's company for 5 years, but this is the first time Griffin has come to a vendor meeting. Sloane blinked. Attended? What do you mean? Seraphina nodded toward the cafe entrance. Sloane turned and saw Griffin standing by the counter, ordering coffee. He looked handsome in his dark gray suit, calm and confident. People nearby seemed to notice him too. He's been there for 10 minutes, Seraphina whispered. Maybe he's just keeping an eye on things. Sloane's heart fluttered a bit. Maybe he just wanted coffee, she said quickly. Maybe, Seraphina said with a knowing smile, but there's a coffee machine right in his office. When Seraphina left, Sloane sat still, pretending to look at her notes. Was Griffin checking up on her, or was something else going on? Mind if I join you? Sloane looked up. Griffin stood beside her table with a cup in his hand. Of course, she said politely, even though her heart was beating fast. He sat down. Up close, Sloane noticed faint lines near his eyes, maybe from stress. His cologne smelled fresh and soft, like clean wood. Good meeting with Seraphina? He asked. Yes, Sloane said. She's very talented, though she mentioned you don't usually come to these meetings. Griffin smiled slightly. I don't, but Dr. Ilara's auction is very important. Because of the donors? Sloan asked. And because, Griffin said quietly, my sister was in that hospital when she was 7. She had leukemia. Sloan's heart softened. I'm sorry, that must have been so hard. It was a long time ago, Griffin said. She's fine now. She's a teacher in Portland, married with 2 kids who think I spoil them too much. He smiled softly, then looked serious again. But things like that stay with you. Is that why you started this company? Sloan asked. To make special events that matter? Griffin looked at her for a moment, then nodded. Yes, I realize the events people remember most are the ones that connect hearts. Not just plans and tables, but feelings. Sloan felt her heart warm. She saw now that Griffin wasn't just a serious boss. He was someone who cared deeply about people and memories. The auction will be perfect, she said softly. I promise. I believe you, Griffin replied, looking straight into her eyes. For a moment, it felt like time stopped between them until Sloane's phone buzzed. It was a message from her friend Zara. Coffee later. Need to hear about your new boss. Griffin noticed her smile. Work emergency? No, Sloane said, putting her phone away. Just a friend. I should head back upstairs, she added. The Martinez wedding is this weekend. Of course, Griffin said, standing up. Then he surprised her by saying, Sloane, I wasn't spying on you earlier. I was nearby for a client lunch. I saw you through the window. You looked happy. It reminded me why I love what I do. Sloane smiled. Thank you for telling me about your sister. It helps me understand why this work means so much to you. It matters to you too, Griffin said. You care. I can see it. They walked to the elevator together. Griffin held the door for her, simple, polite, and kind. Sloane, he said softly as the doors opened at her floor. I'm glad you're here. Sloane stepped out, her heart beating faster than before. As the elevator doors closed, she realized Griffin was becoming more than just her boss, and she wasn't sure how to feel about that. That Friday night, Sloane was still in her office at 7 p.m. Papers and coffee cups covered her desk. She looked tired but focused. The Martinez wedding had gone great, but now the hospital auction was taking all her time. Her curly hair had fallen loose, and she wore a cozy cream sweater her mom had given her. You know, there are laws about working this late, said a voice from the door. It was Griffin. He stood there with his tie loosened and his jacket over his arm. His hair was slightly messy, and he looked younger, almost playful. Says the man still here at 7 p.m., Sloane joked, stretching. Touche, he said with a grin, walking closer. He looked at her computer screen. The Ilara auction? Yes, Sloane said. The guest list keeps growing. It's great for donations, but hard for planning. Griffin leaned over her desk, looking at the spreadsheet. What if we open the balcony level? I thought about that, Sloane said, but we'd need special permits. I'll handle it, Griffin said, typing a quick note on his phone. I know someone at the city office. Sloane smiled tiredly. Are you always this involved in projects? Only the important ones, Griffin said, his voice gentle now. Then he added softly, and only with people who care as much as I do. It was evening, and before Sloane could say anything, her stomach suddenly made a loud growling sound that everyone in the room could hear. She quickly put her hand on her tummy and felt very shy. When did you last eat? Griffin asked softly. His voice didn't sound like a boss anymore. It sounded kind. I had some yogurt around 11, Sloane said quietly. Sloane, it's past 7 now. That's not eating. That's surviving, Griffin said with a serious look. Pack up your things. We're getting food. I really should finish this, Sloane said, glancing at her papers. The auction isn't tomorrow. The spreadsheets will still be here on Monday, Griffin said in that firm voice he used when talking to difficult people. So, 20 minutes later, Sloane found herself sitting a sharp from Griffin Thorne at a small Italian restaurant in Little Italy. She never thought she would be there with him. Griffin was arguing with the restaurant owner, a funny old man named Lorenzo, about how to make a special dish called osso buco. "Mr. Thorne, I've been making this dish for 30 years, the old man said, waving his hands. "I'm not questioning you, Lorenzo," Griffin said, smiling, "but my grandmother always added a little orange zest. It made it perfect." Sloane watched, amazed. Griffin didn't look like the serious boss from the office anymore. He looked happy and alive, using his hands to talk like Italians do. Finally, Lorenzo laughed and said, "Fine, just this once." Griffin grinned, looking so proud. "Your grandmother was Italian?" Sloane asked. "Half Italian, half Irish," Griffin said as he poured some wine. "She lived with us when I was a kid. She said food was love, and love means paying attention to the little details." "Is that why you're so careful with events?" Sloane asked. "Maybe," Griffin said, swirling his wine. "She used to say the small things show who you really are. Every dinner she cooked mattered, because people mattered." Sloane smiled softly. "She sounds wonderful." "She was," Griffin said. "She would have loved you. She liked strong women who spoke their minds." He laughed, remembering. "Once she made my college girlfriend cry because the girl said her lasagna was too cheesy." "Poor girl," Sloane said, giggling. "Ex-girlfriend," Griffin said. "Anyone who didn't love my grandma's cooking wasn't meant for me." Soon, plates of food filled the table. Bread, antipasto, and the famous osso buco. Sloane relaxed. Griffin didn't seem scary anymore. He seemed warm, funny, and kind. As they shared a dessert, Griffin asked, "Why did you really leave your last job?" Sloane put down her spoon. "The company only cared about money. Once a bride cried because she couldn't afford the flowers she dreamed of. My boss said it wasn't our problem." "But you made it your problem, didn't you?" Griffin asked, smiling. "I did," Sloane said. "I moved some money around so she could have the flowers. Later, she sent me a photo from her honeymoon. She wore a crown made of those same flowers. It was worth all the trouble." Griffin looked at her closely. "You know what I noticed about you the first day? My sparkling personality?" Sloane joked. "Your shoes," Griffin said. "My shoes?" She laughed. "They were practical and comfortable," Griffin said. "Most people wear painful shoes to impress me, but you wore shoes that let you run around solving problems. That's when I knew you understood what this job really needs." "So you hired me because of my shoes?" she asked. "I hired you because you think like a problem solver," Griffin said gently. "The shoes just proved it." Later, as they walked back to her car, Sloane felt warm and happy. The night smelled like Griffin's cologne and delicious food. "Thank you," she said, "for dinner, for listening, for making sure I ate." "Thank you for trusting me," Griffin said softly. "And about that bride's flower crown, I would have done the same thing." When Sloane drove home, she couldn't stop thinking about him. The way he laughed, talked about his grandmother, and cared about her. Maybe he wasn't the cold boss everyone said he was. Maybe he was much more than that. The next morning, it was finally the day of Dr. Ilara's big charity auction. The air was cool and crisp, and Manhattan looked like a beautiful movie set. At 6 a.m., Sloane stood in the grand ballroom with her clipboard. The room looked magical. The tall glass vases with white orchids sparkled in the sunlight. Tables for the silent auction were perfectly arranged. "The lighting looks perfect," said Juno, handing Sloane a cup of coffee. "You've outdone yourself." "Don't celebrate yet," Sloane said. "We've got 8 hours until guests arrive." Just then, her phone rang. It was Cale, the catering manager. "Sloane, we have a problem," he said. "The seafood delivery is 3 hours late, and we don't have enough scallops." Sloane felt her heart drop. The scallops were Dr. Ilara's favorite dish. "What are our options?" Sloane asked quickly. "We could do crab and avocado tartines or beef canapes," Cale said. "Give me 15 minutes, Sloane said, calling Dr. Ilara right away. Luckily, Dr. Ilara was kind and said the crab tartines sounded great. Sloane sighed with relief. "Crisis averted?" Juno asked. "For now," Sloane said. "There's always something." Right on cue, her phone rang again. It was the sound technician. The projector isn't working with the lights, he said. We need hotel maintenance, but they're busy. Can you work around it? Sloan asked. We can, but it won't be perfect. Do your best, Sloan said calmly. Then she saw Griffin walking toward her in his gray suit. Rough morning? He asked. Just a few hiccups, Sloan said. Everything will be perfect by 7. Griffin smiled. In 5 years of working with Corbin, I never saw him handle stress like you. Maybe Corbin never had Lorenzo's osso buco, Sloan said playfully. Griffin's eyes softened, but before he could reply, Sloan's phone buzzed again. The hotel sent the wrong furniture for the VIP room, a nervous staff member said. It's modern instead of traditional. Sloan frowned. Oh no, Dr. Ilara wanted classic style. What are our options? Griffin asked. We can try to borrow furniture, but it will take all day, the staffer said. Sloan thought hard. Then her eyes lit up. The hotel library. The library, the man repeated. Yes, it has leather chairs, antique tables, and it's perfect for 30 people. Griffin's eyes brightened. That's brilliant. Can it be ready? Yes, said the hotel worker. It even has its own bar. Make it happen, Griffin said, and tell Dr. Ilara it's an upgrade. As the worker hurried off, Griffin turned to Sloan. The library, genius idea, he said, shaking his head with a smile. The rest of the day flew by. The new crab tartines looked amazing. The manual lights made the stage glow beautifully. Dr. Ilara loved the library idea and called it perfectly elegant. By 6 p.m., the guests started arriving. The ballroom sparkled and everyone looked happy. Griffin appeared beside Sloan in a black tuxedo, looking handsome. You did it, he said. We did it, Sloan said with a smile. You helped too. Griffin looked at her warmly. Sloan, what you did today, fixing every problem with grace and creativity, that's truly amazing. Sloan turned to face Griffin. The soft lights in the big ballroom made his face look gentle and his eyes shine like silver. Thank you, she said. There's something I need to tell you, Griffin said, his voice very quiet. These past few weeks, working with you, watching you handle everything so smartly and with such creativity, it made me realize something I didn't expect. Sloane's heart started beating faster. What's that? She asked. Before Griffin could answer, Dr. Ilara came over, smiling happily. She looked beautiful in her dark blue dress. Sloan, my dear, this is perfect, Dr. Ilara said joyfully. The library reception has everyone talking. The auction tables look amazing. I've been doing this event for 8 years, and this is the best one yet. She squeezed Sloane's hands warmly and went to greet other guests. Sloane sighed softly. Griffin's serious moment had passed. He looked calm again, but when she glanced into his eyes, she felt that he still wanted to finish what he had tried to say. The night went wonderfully. By 10 p.m., the fundraiser had raised $2.8 million, the most ever. The guests stayed, laughing and talking in small groups, not wanting to leave such a lovely evening. Sloane walked around the ballroom, helping the staff clean up. Her feet hurt in her high heels, and a few curls had escaped from her bun, but she felt happy. Everything had gone perfectly, from the delicious crab tartines everyone loved to the quiet library reception that made guests feel special. The silent auction tables can stay until morning, Sloane told Serafina, who was packing the flowers. The hotel staff will keep them safe overnight. Serafina smiled. Sloane, you've outdone yourself. I've been doing flowers for 15 years, and this was the smoothest event I've ever seen. You should be proud. Soon, almost everyone had left. Sloane looked around and saw that only she and Griffin were still in the ballroom. Griffin had taken off his tuxedo jacket and untied his bow tie. He looked more relaxed than ever. The lights were now soft and golden, making the big room feel warm and cozy. Dr. Ilara wants to book us for next year before we even leave, Griffin said, coming toward her with 2 glasses of champagne. She's never done that before. Sloane smiled and took 1 glass. She seemed really happy with everything. That means a lot to me. Why? Griffin asked gently. Because she could have picked any company in the city, but she trusted us, Sloane said. and I wanted to live up to that trust. It's not just about work, it's personal. Griffin watched her face. You really care about this, don't you? Not just about organizing, but about what the event means to people. I do, Sloane said softly. Griffin nodded slowly. I didn't always feel that way, he said. When I started this company, I only wanted success. I wanted to prove I could make luxury events for rich clients. But now, after working with you, I feel something different. What changed? Sloane asked. You, he said simply. Watching how you care about people and the meaning behind every event, it reminded me why I love this job in the first place. Sloane's heart skipped a beat. Griffin, earlier tonight, before Dr. Alara came over, you were about to tell me something. Griffin put down his glass and looked at her seriously. These past few weeks have been different for me. Talking with you, watching you work, it made me realize that I've just been doing my job without passion. But now, because of you, I feel something again. Sloane felt the air change between them. What are you saying? She asked quietly. Griffin stepped closer. I'm saying that I stopped thinking of you as just my amazing event coordinator. I started thinking of you as someone I really want to see every morning. Someone who makes my day better just by laughing. Someone I can't stop thinking about. Sloane's breath caught. Griffin, we work together. This could make things complicated. I know, he said. I've tried to pretend that it's just professional admiration, but it's not. It's not when I walk past your office just to see if you're there. It's not when I smile remembering something you said. And it's not when I sit in business dinners wishing I was having dinner with you instead. Sloane put down her glass, her hands shaking a little. This is dangerous, she whispered. If it goes wrong, it could hurt both of us. I know that, Griffin said softly. He came closer and Sloane could smell his cologne. His gray eyes sparkled in the dim light. But what if it doesn't go wrong? What if it's something worth the risk? Sloane looked up at him. For the first time, she saw the real man behind the calm, confident boss, the man who cared about people and remembered small, kind things. What exactly are you asking me? She whispered. I'm asking if you feel it too, Griffin said quietly. If I'm imagining this connection or if it's real. Sloane stood still. You don't have to answer tonight, Griffin said quickly. I just needed you to know, because hiding it felt dishonest. Sloane reached out and touched his arm. His eyes widened slightly at her touch. It's not that I don't know what to say, Sloane said softly. It's that I'm scared of how much I want to say yes. Griffin placed his hand gently over hers. Scared because you don't trust me, or because you do? Sloane looked up at him and smiled faintly. Scared because I've never felt anything like this before, she whispered, and I don't know how to handle it without losing myself or everything I worked for. Griffin rubbed his thumb asnear and sharp her hand softly. Then let's figure it out together, he said, slowly and honestly. In that quiet, warm ballroom, Sloane knew her life was about to change forever. The next morning, Sloane woke up in her cozy apartment in Brooklyn. Everything looked the same. The cream-colored walls, her vintage furniture, the trees outside. But everything felt different. She lay in bed remembering last night. She had said yes. Yes, she'd whispered to Griffin, holding his hand. Let's figure it out together. Thinking about it made her stomach flutter again, with excitement and a little fear. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Griffin. Griffin. Good morning. I hope you slept well. No pressure about anything we discussed. I just wanted you to know I'm thinking about you. Sloane smiled. She typed back, Sloane, good morning. I slept well, surprisingly. Thank you for being patient with my overthinking. Griffin replied quickly, Your overthinking is one of the things I admire. It means you care deeply. Sloane laughed softly. He always knew how to make her feel at ease. After breakfast and a call to her mom in North Carolina, Sloane went for a walk in Prospect Park. The air was cool and fresh. The leaves were red, orange, and gold. She felt calm but thoughtful. Her best friend Zara kept texting her, asking why she looked so happy in her photos from last night's event. But Sloane didn't want to share her secret yet. It felt too new and special. Then her phone rang. It was Griffin. "I hope I'm not disturbing your weekend," he said warmly. "Not at all," Sloane replied. "I'm walking in the park trying to clear my head." "How's that going?" he asked with a laugh. "Slowly," she admitted. "I keep thinking about last night, about us." "That's normal," Griffin said kindly. "And I want you to know, whatever happens between us, it won't affect your job. You're brilliant at what you do." "Thank you," Sloane said. "But we both know it's more than just a job. If this doesn't work out, then we'll handle it with honesty and respect," Griffin said. "We'll stay professional. We'll be okay." Sloane smiled. "You make it sound so simple." "The idea is simple," Griffin said, "but living it might take some work." He paused. "Sloane, would you like to have dinner with me? Not a business dinner, just dinner, as two people who want to know each other better." Sloane's heart fluttered. "Are you asking me on a date, Mr. Thorne?" she teased. "I am, Miss Ellington," Griffin said with a smile in his voice. "And I'll admit, I'm nervous." "You're nervous?" Sloane laughed. "You handle million-dollar deals." "Yes," Griffin said softly, "but this matters more than any deal." Sloane felt her heart grow warm. "Yes," she said, "I'd love to have dinner with you." "Tonight?" he asked. "Tonight is perfect." And out. 3 hours later, Sloane stood in front of her mirror, checking her outfit again. She wore a dark green dress that made her eyes sparkle. Her hair fell in soft curls, and she wore simple gold earrings and her grandmother's necklace. Griffin had chosen a small French restaurant downtown, a quiet, cozy place that wasn't too fancy but still felt special. It was Friday evening when Sloane arrived at the restaurant. Griffin was already there, sitting at a small table in the corner. He looked up from his phone and smiled at her. It was the kind of smile that made Sloane understand why everyone at work talked about him. But this smile was not fake or practiced. It was real and a little shy, and it was only for her. "You look beautiful," Griffin said as Sloane sat down. "Thank you," Sloane said with a little laugh. "You look nice too." Griffin wasn't wearing his usual suit. Instead, he wore dark jeans and a soft blue sweater that made his gray eyes look almost blue. He looked younger and more relaxed. Sloane found herself noticing small things about him. The way his hair curled a little at the back, the tiny scar near his eyebrow, and how his hands moved when he talked. "I have to admit," Griffin said while looking at the menu, "I don't really know how to do this." "Do what?" Sloane asked. "Go on a date with someone I already know I really like," he said, smiling. Sloane felt her heartbeat faster. Griffin was being honest. "Usually, when you meet someone new," he continued, "you wonder if you'll enjoy spending time with them. But with you, I already know I do. I already know you're smart, kind, and funny, so I'm not sure what we're supposed to talk about now." Sloane laughed. "Well, we can skip the usual small talk, like what we do for work." "Yes, definitely," Griffin said. "And I already know you're from North Carolina. I can hear your little southern accent when you're tired or annoyed." "You notice that?" she asked, surprised. "I notice everything about you, Sloane," he said softly. "That's part of the problem." The waiter came to take their drink order. Sloane needed that moment to calm her heart. When the waiter left, she leaned closer. "What else do you notice?" she asked. Griffin looked thoughtful. "I notice that you bite your lower lip when you're concentrating, saying that you have 3 different laughs, one polite, one real, and one that bursts out when something is really funny. I notice you touch your necklace when you're nervous, just like you're doing now." Sloane quickly dropped her hand and felt her cheeks turn pink. "You really do notice everything." "Your turn," Griffin said. "What do you notice about me?" Sloane thought for a moment. "I notice that you have different sides. At work, you're confident and serious, you care about every detail, but there's also the kind man who talks about his grandmother's recipes and makes sure everyone eats dinner. And then there's the man sitting here now. the one who's honest and a little nervous. Griffin's eyes softened. Which version do you like? The one who's real, Sloane said. Griffin looked surprised and maybe even relieved. I don't get to be real very often, he admitted. In my job, people think being open means being weak. Not to me, Sloane said kindly. No, Griffin said quietly. Not to you. After that, their talk became easy. They talked about their childhoods, their dreams, and favorite books. Sloane told him about cooking Sunday dinners with her grandmother, about her first event at work that went wrong, and how she secretly wanted to write a novel one day. Griffin talked about his sister Olivia and her kids, who always asked for too many presents from Uncle Griffin. He told her how much he loved sailing and how he dreamed of planning big events in Europe one day. I can't remember the last time I talked to someone for 3 hours without checking my phone, Griffin said as they shared a fancy chocolate tart for dessert. Is that a good thing? Sloane teased. It's a very good thing, Griffin said. It means I'm exactly where I want to be. When they walked back to Sloane's car, she didn't want the night to end. The streets were quiet, and being next to Griffin felt exciting and peaceful at the same time. Thank you for tonight, Sloane said, for dinner, for talking, and for making me feel comfortable. Thank you for saying yes, Griffin said. Then he hesitated. Sloane, I want to kiss you good night, but I also want to be sure you're okay with that. Sloane smiled softly. I'd like that, she whispered. Griffin gently touched her cheek and kissed her softly. It was warm and kind, not rushed or showy. Sloane felt like the world had stopped for a moment. When she drove home that night, she couldn't stop smiling. She realized she wasn't scared anymore. She was ready for this new adventure, with him. On Monday, Sloane had a new problem: how to act normal at work after such a wonderful weekend. She got to the office early, trying to keep her face serious and not too happy. She told herself to stay professional. Her coworker, Juno, walked in with coffee. You look so bright today. Good weekend? She asked with a grin. Relaxing, Sloane said, trying to sound calm. Juno sighed. My date was terrible. He talked for hours about buildings and never asked me one question. She rolled her eyes. Anyway, let's talk about the tech event next Friday. They started working on the big event for a company called Meridian Tech. They had to make it fun, but not too serious. Sloane and Juno talked about how to help guests move around and meet new people. What if we guide them through stations, like a tour? Juno suggested. Sloane smiled. That's a great idea. It would make it easier for people to talk. As they worked, Sloane suddenly felt Griffin's presence before she even saw him. Then his voice came from behind them. Good morning, he said politely. Her heart jumped. How's the Meridian event going? He asked. We're planning guided stations, Sloane said, sounding professional, even though she felt nervous. Griffin leaned over the papers, and Sloane couldn't help remembering how gently his hands had touched her face on Friday night. I like this idea, Griffin said. It's different and smart. Their eyes met for just 2 seconds, but it felt longer. Juno noticed and raised her eyebrows. After Griffin left, Juno turned to Sloane. Okay, what was that? What was what? Sloane said, pretending to organize papers. The look. You two were acting like you had a secret, Juno said, laughing. Did something happen between you and our handsome boss? Sloane blushed. We're being professional, she said quickly. That's not a no, Juno teased. But honestly, I've never seen Griffin look at anyone the way he looked at you. The rest of the morning was full of meetings, but Sloane couldn't stop thinking about Griffin. Later in the afternoon, she went to the supply room to find some folders. Suddenly, Griffin appeared at the door. This is harder than I thought, he said quietly. Sloane knew what he meant. Pretending nothing has changed? She asked. Yes, Griffin said. I want to ask how your morning was. I want to talk to you, but I can't because people would notice. He stepped closer and Sloane's heart raced. I keep forgetting that no one else knows about us yet, he said softly. Us, Sloane repeated, liking the sound of it. It is complicated, she admitted. This morning, I had to practice how to look at you normally. Griffin laughed gently. Juno noticed, didn't she? She did, Sloane said, but she won't tell anyone. Griffin took her hand. Then maybe we can make a plan. During works, we stay completely professional. No personal talk, no long looks. But after work, Sloane said, smiling, we can just be Sloane and Griffin. Griffin squeezed her hand. That sounds perfect, she smiled shyly. But it's going to be hard not to look at you the way I want to. And how's that? Griffin asked. Like you're the most interesting person in the room, she said softly. Like I'm thinking about how much I enjoyed our weekend. Griffin took a deep breath. Work hours, he said, reminding himself. Professional boundaries. Sloane stepped back, smiling. After 6 o'clock, though, all bets are off. I'll remember that, Griffin said with a wink. The rest of the day went by quickly. At 5:45, Sloane started to pack up her things when her phone buzzed. It was a message from Griffin. Dinner tonight? I know a place with amazing pasta. Sloane texted back. Is it your grandmother's recipe again? No, but the chef learned in Italy. Pick you up at 7. Sloane smiled. She could barely wait. Juno appeared in her doorway. Dinner plans? She asked with a grin. Just a friend, Sloane said, then added, a very good friend. Juno laughed. Well, whatever's making you glow like that, keep doing it. When Sloane went down to the lobby, Griffin's car was already there. He looked up at her and smiled, a smile that made her heart flutter all over again. As she got in, she realized how much her life had changed in just one weekend. It wouldn't always be easy, but she knew it was worth it. Some things in life are worth the risk. As they drove off together, Sloane knew one thing for sure. This might be complicated, but it was going to be the best adventure of her life. It was the evening of the big company party, and Sloane stood in her bedroom, looking at herself in the mirror. She felt both excited and a little nervous. She was wearing a beautiful green dress that sparkled softly when she moved. It fit her perfectly and made her brown eyes shine with tiny gold lights. It wasn't too fancy or too simple. It was just right. She had bought it last weekend because she thought she deserved something nice after working so hard. Tonight felt special. She wanted to remind herself, and maybe others too, that she wasn't just a smart worker. She was also a beautiful woman. Sloane's curly hair was soft and wavy, and she wore shiny gold earrings and a necklace that caught the light when she turned. As she added a bit of lipstick, she wondered what Griffin would think when he saw her, not as his co-worker, but as the woman he had been secretly admiring for weeks. When Sloane reached the big ballroom of the Hudson River Hotel, it looked just like she had planned. The tall chandeliers glowed warmly, the tables were covered in dark blue cloth, and white roses decorated every centerpiece. Everyone looked happy and proud of their work. Sloane walked around to make sure everything was perfect. But soon she noticed something strange. People were looking at her, especially the men. Her dress seemed to have caught everyone's attention. Sloane, you look amazing tonight, said Hayes from the marketing team. He handed her a glass of sparkling juice. I don't think I've ever seen you look more beautiful. Thank you, Hayes, Sloane said politely. I'm glad the event is going well. It is, Hayes said, smiling. But I have to admit, you're the most beautiful thing here tonight. Would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Just us? Before Sloane could say anything, she saw Griffin Ashur's. A sharp the room. He was talking to some board members in his black tuxedo, looking calm but serious. Yet, something about him looked different. His eyes kept moving toward her and Hayes. His jaw was tight. Then Beckett came over too. Sloane, you look incredible tonight, he said with a big smile. Soon more men joined, saying nice things, and Sloane felt everyone's attention on her. She felt both happy and a little overwhelmed. Asharp the room, Griffin stopped talking to the others. He was watching her closely, his eyes filled with something strong, something that looked a lot like jealousy. Then Griffin walked over. "Gentlemen," he said politely, but his voice sounded firm, "I hope everyone's enjoying the celebration." "We were just saying how stunning Sloane looks," said Hayes. "I can see that," Griffin said, his gray eyes locking on Sloane's. "Sloane, can I talk to you for a moment? There's an issue with the catering schedule." Sloane knew there was no problem. Everything had been checked an hour ago. But she could hear something in Griffin's voice, emotion he was trying to hide. "Of course," she said, and followed him outside to the quiet garden terrace. The terrace looked over the shining river. The air was cool and calm. Griffin looked upset, but also different, more open than she had ever seen him. "There's no catering problem, is there?" Sloane asked softly. Griffin ran a hand through his neat hair. "No," he said quietly. "There isn't. I just couldn't stand watching them look at you like that for another second." Sloane blinked in surprise. "Seeing Hayes ask you to dinner made me want to remind him there are boundaries," Griffin said, his voice deep and honest. "Professional boundaries?" Sloane asked with a tiny smile. "Sloane," he said, his voice breaking a little, "you know it's not about that. You walked into that ballroom looking so beautiful, and suddenly every man noticed what I've been trying not to notice for weeks." "And what's that?" she whispered. "That you're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," Griffin said. "That watching you laugh with Hayes made me want to tell him you were mine, even though I know I have no right to feel that way." Sloane's heart raced. "I know it's crazy," Griffin continued. "I know I shouldn't be jealous, and I know you're my employee. But I can't pretend anymore. What I feel for you isn't just friendship or admiration." Sloane's voice trembled. "Then what do you feel for me?" Griffin gently touched her face. "I feel like you've changed my whole world. I feel like I've been asleep before you came into my life. And seeing other men look at you drives me crazy." Sloane smiled softly. "So, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't care about boundaries anymore. I don't want to be your boss who sometimes takes you to dinner. I want to be the man who takes you home, the one who feels proud when others see how beautiful you are, because they know you're with me." Sloane's face grew warm. "Are you jealous, Griffin?" she teased gently. "Desperately," he admitted with a smile. "Completely." She reached up and touched his cheek. "You know what's funny? I bought this dress thinking about you, wondering if you'd see me differently. I never thought it would make you jealous." "Are you glad it did?" Griffin asked. "I'm glad it made you honest," Sloane said softly, "and I'm glad you finally told me what I've wanted to hear, that you want me too." Griffin smiled, his whole face lighting up. "Sloane, you have no idea how much I want you." "Then show me," she whispered. He leaned down and kissed her under the stars, with the lights of the city shining below them. It felt magical. Sloane realized that sometimes you have to stop being careful and start being honest about what your heart wants. When they finally pulled apart, Griffin rested his forehead against hers. "We should go back," he said softly. "We should," Sloane agreed, but neither moved. "But before we do," Griffin said, his voice serious now, "I need you to know something. This isn't just about tonight or jealousy. Sloane, I'm falling in love with you. And that scares me more than anything else ever has." Tears filled Sloane's eyes. "You don't have to say it back," Griffin whispered. "I just needed you to know. This feeling isn't going away." Sloane smiled through her tears. "Good," she said softly, "because I'm falling in love with you too." They walked back into the glowing ballroom together. Sloane felt like her heart was shining brighter than the chandeliers above. The next week after the party was strange. Sloane worked extra hard, trying not to think too much about what had happened. She came in early, left late, and tried to act normal, but her friend Juno noticed. "You're avoiding Griffin," Juno said in the break room one afternoon. "I'm just busy," Sloane said, stirring her coffee. "Busy doesn't mean running away every time he walks by," Juno teased gently. "Something happened at that party, didn't it?" Before Sloane could answer, Beckett came in. Sloan, Griffin wants to see you. It's about the Rutherford wedding this weekend. The Rutherford wedding was a big deal, a fancy event for a rich family. Sloan had planned every detail for weeks. Is something wrong? She asked. I think so, Beckett said. He said it's urgent. Sloane's stomach twisted as she walked to Griffin's office. He was standing by the window, looking serious. You wanted to see me? She asked. Yes, he said quietly. Close the door. Sloane's heart pounded. Griffin never asked her to close the door. What's wrong? I just got off the phone with Mrs. Rutherford, Griffin said. She's canceling the wedding. Sloane gasped. What? The wedding is in 3 days. I know, Griffin said, but she found out her fiancé has been hiding debts and a secret apartment. Sloane sat down, her mind racing. What about all the vendors, the flowers, the cake? I'll handle the costs, Griffin said, but there's something else. What? Aurelia Sharp called me, Griffin said carefully. She already knew about the cancellation before we did. Sloane frowned. How? She has a contact at the venue. She's been spying on us, getting inside information and trying to steal our clients. Sloane felt a cold shiver. So she's been watching everything we do? Yes, Griffin said quietly, and it means we're in a much bigger problem than just a canceled wedding. Sloane looked at Griffin, and suddenly everything started to make sense. The mix-up at the Martinez wedding, the delay at the Alara auction, were those really just mistakes? Sloane wasn't sure, but it felt suspicious. Griffin's face became serious. Aurelia plays a very clever game, Sloane, he said quietly. She doesn't only try to win in business, she makes trouble for others so that she can look like the hero. You think she's been ruining our events on purpose? Sloane asked. Yes, Griffin nodded. She's been trying to make us look bad while making herself look good. He leaned closer. But there's more. Something personal. Sloane's heart started beating faster. What is it? At the party last week, Griffin said slowly, Aurelia told me she knows about us, about our relationship, and she said if I don't work with her again, she'll tell everyone. Sloane gasped. She's blackmailing you. That's terrible, Griffin sighed. This is what I was afraid of when we started dating. She's using personal things to get what she wants at work. Sloane's heart hurt. Griffin looked tired and sad. Sloane, he said softly, maybe we should think about whether continuing our relationship is worth the risk. It could hurt your job and my company. His words felt like a punch. After all the dinners, laughter, and deep talks, Griffin wanted to end things because of Aurelia's lies. So that's it? Sloane asked quietly. Aurelia threatens us and we just give up? It's not giving up, Griffin said. It's protecting what matters most. And what matters most to you, Griffin? Sloane asked, her voice shaking. Your company's name or your heart? Griffin's face showed pain. My company has 12 employees. Their families depend on it. I can't put that at risk. For what? For me? Sloane stood up, tears burning in her eyes. Just say it. You can't risk your business for me. That's not what I meant, Griffin said quickly. Isn't it? Sloane said angrily, walking toward the door. Then she stopped and turned around. You're not just scared of Aurelia's threat, Griffin. You're scared because this relationship is real. And real love means you have to be brave, not in control all the time. Griffin looked hurt. You think I don't want to fight for us? You think walking away is easy? I think you're doing what you always do, Sloane said. Playing it safe, staying in control, and never letting yourself risk something that matters. That's not fair, Griffin said, his voice breaking. Neither is asking me to give up the best thing that's happened to me in years, Sloane said firmly, just because your ex can't handle rejection. The words hung between them like heavy air. Griffin stared at her for a long moment, and something in his eyes changed. His careful mask fell away, and he looked raw, real, and full of emotion. You think this is the best thing that's happened to you? He asked softly. Yes, Sloane said, her voice shaking. Because you made me feel seen, you made me believe in myself again. I haven't felt this happy in years. Her voice grew stronger, but maybe I was wrong about you. She reached for the door, but Griffin said, "Wait." She turned around and saw that his face had changed again. His eyes were full of determination now. "You're right," he said simply. "About everything. I am scared. I've spent years protecting myself. But not anymore. I almost lost the most important thing in my life, you." Sloane's anger melted a little. "What are you saying, Griffin?" "I'm saying Aurelia Sharp can go to hell," he said, his voice strong and sure. "I'm saying if she wants to play games, we'll play smarter. And I'm saying I would rather fight every unfair person in Manhattan than lose you because I was too afraid to love you." He walked toward her, eyes full of love. "Sloane, that night in the garden when I said I was falling in love with you, I meant it. But now I'm not just falling, I'm all the way in. I love you completely and truly." Sloane's eyes filled with tears. Griffin continued, "I love how smart you are. I love how you help people's dreams come true. I love how you call me out when I'm being foolish. I love everything about you." He gently held her face. "I love you, Sloane Ellington, and I won't let anyone or anything take that away from us." Sloane smiled through her tears. "That night, I told you I felt the same, but I wasn't just falling either. I love you too, Griffin. I love how you care, how you protect, and how you make me feel like the most special person in the world. I'm ready to fight for us too." Griffin laughed softly, full of relief. "So what do we do now?" "Now we face Aurelia together," Sloane said bravely. "Because I'm not giving up the best thing in my life either." Griffin pulled her into his arms, and when he kissed her, Sloane felt certain that love was worth fighting for. She wasn't alone anymore. 6 months later. The best love stories aren't about perfect starts. They're about choosing each other every single day. It was a bright spring morning. Sunlight filled Sloane's new office. It was bigger now, with a beautiful view of Central Park. Her nameplate read, "Sloane Ellington, Senior Event Director." She was looking at wedding plans for Tuscany when her coworker Juno rushed in, smiling big. "You need to see this," she said, waving her tablet. "The article just went live." Sloane took it and saw an article titled, "Rising Stars of Event Planning, Duo Takes Industry by Storm." There were pictures of her and Griffin, smiling and working together. Juno read aloud, "Under the leadership of Griffin Thorne and newly promoted Senior Director Sloane Ellington, their company has grown fast, winning big clients and becoming a top name in the city." Sloane smiled, remembering how they'd worked so hard for this. The pictures showed their teamwork, trust, and love. "There's more," Juno said, grinning. "Aurelia Sharp refused to comment, but her company has lost several clients recently." Sloane smiled wider. Aurelia's plan to hurt them had failed. People now knew about her dishonest ways, and she had lost business because of it. Justice had been served. "By the way," Juno whispered, "Griffin's been pacing around for 20 minutes, fixing his tie. He's either meeting a big client or something else." Before Sloane could answer, Griffin appeared, looking nervous but handsome in his navy suit. "Sloane, do you have a minute? We need to discuss the Henderson anniversary party." Sloane raised her eyebrow. "That party isn't for another month. Everything's already done." "Please," he said, closing the door. Juno winked and left, clearly knowing what was happening. When they were alone, Griffin held a small velvet box in his hand. Sloane's heart skipped a beat. "Before you say anything," he began, "I know this isn't traditional, but I've been carrying this ring for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect time. Then I realized, every moment with you is perfect." He knelt down, opening the box to reveal a sparkling diamond ring. "Sloane Ellington," he said softly, "you changed my life. You made me love my work, my city, and my future again. You helped me grow and love myself. Will you marry me? Will you be my partner in love, work, and everything in between?" Tears filled Sloane's eyes. "Yes," she whispered, then said louder, "Yes, of course, yes." Griffin smiled so brightly it made her laugh. He slipped the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. "It's beautiful," she said, admiring the way it sparkled in the morning light. "Not as beautiful as you," he said, hugging her tight. A knock came at the door. Can I come in? Juno teased. Or do you two need more time with your logistics? Come in, Sloane said, laughing. Juno entered, holding champagne. I was ready for this. Beckett's taking your calls, and I cleared your schedule. Time to celebrate. Griffin laughed. How did you know? You've been walking into walls for weeks, Juno said, and asking me about Sloane's favorite restaurants. It was obvious. They all laughed and toasted to love, success, and new beginnings. Sloane looked out the window at Central Park, remembering when she first came to work for Griffin. She had found more than a job. She had found love, friendship, and courage. Griffin wrapped his arm around her. Looks like we have another event to plan, our wedding. Sloane smiled. Actually, I know a great event planner. She's talented, calm under pressure, and she just got a big promotion. Does she work with difficult clients? Griffin teased. She specializes in them. Sloane laughed. But her prices have gone up. I think I can pay, Griffin said, kissing her hand, with a lifetime of love and adventure. Deal, Sloane said, smiling. Outside, spring flowers were blooming. Inside, Sloane and Griffin were building their future, one beautiful, brave moment at a time. And a Sharp town, Aurelia Sharp, read about their success and wondered how it had all gone wrong for her. She didn't understand that some people are simply meant to be together, no matter who tries to stop them, because true love isn't about perfection. It's about fighting for someone who makes you better and never giving up, no matter how scary it gets.